Welcome back to the channel, it's LukeTheDuke, and to anyone that has taken the early plunge into Starfield, you've now gotten a little taste of what this game has to offer. We've got a lot to talk about today, as over the last 24 hours, early reviews and critic reviews have been popping up all over the place. I myself posted a full spoiler-free review yesterday, and there's a lot to take in here, with some outliers for sure, and of course, I have some thoughts on it all. Now, I say this every upload, but I truly mean it. Your support for my Starfield uploads is awesome and deserves the praise. In case you haven't done so already, make sure to hit subscribe and ring the notifications bell to receive my latest upload alerts. Likes, comments, shares are greatly appreciated. This one will again be completely unscripted, but chapters are available for easy viewing, and sit back and buckle up because it's time for Blast Off. So, I did not make this public knowledge prior to posting my early review of Starfield yesterday, but in an early prediction, just amongst friends in a private chat, I predicted that Starfield would probably score somewhere in the mid-80s, if not up into the low 90s on sites like OpenCritic and MetaCritic. I thought it was a very solid offering. I had some small grievances with some of the design choices. Yes, there's some jank in there. Yes, there's some wonky behavior in there, but it's a Bethesda RPG tried and true. It's Oblivion in space. And so when I hop over here to OpenCritic, this is, as of this morning, top critic average 88%. Critics recommended 94%. And of course, we've got some zingers out there. I'm going to touch on IGN in a moment. 7 out of 10. I disagree. PC Gamer, 75 out of 100. I disagree with them. GameSpot, 7 out of 10. I disagree with them. But then everyone else is pretty much where I thought it would be. Mid-80s up to, I'd say, low 90s, if not perfect scores. I don't agree with that either. I mean, it's not a perfect game. Now, what I found pretty interesting is if you look over to the right there, it's showing some other recent releases and what they're actually scoring right now on OpenCritic. Armored Core 6, Fires of Rubicon, of course, FromSoft's latest entry into the AC franchise. I love AC, by the way. Scoring an 85, so it's actually below Starfield right now. And then another highly touted, I believe it was EA who really was pushing this game, Immortals of Aveum. I have not played it. Hopefully I didn't butcher that name. They're at a 73, so Starfield sitting pretty strong right now at a top critic average of 88. And just to do our due diligence as of this morning, MetaCritic showing a Metascore of 88, so pulling the exact same score as OpenCritic. As I take a look at some of these outlets and what they've scored it at, I don't agree with hundreds, but VGC, IGN Japan. Interesting that an IGN affiliate gives it a perfect score. I'll touch on IGN in a moment. Like I said, you've got Destructoid at 100, Games Radar Plus at 100. I think I saw Paul. Where's Paul Tassi? There he is. Paul Tassi at Forbes Magazine at a 95. I would probably, and I'm not a registered critic, I would probably rate Starfield the way it sits, the way I tested it right now, with some of the clunkiness, with some of the jank. I'd probably put it at a 90, 89, 88, somewhere in that range. I think that's a fair score for it right now. And of course, we need to touch on the controversy, the buzz within the Starfield community, and that has to do with the IGN USA scoring of Starfield at a 7 out of 10. I'm over here on the Starfield Reddit. It says IGN, but we take all the IGN reviews. And of course, USA at a 7 out of 10, which is low. France, 9. Brazil, 9.5. Japan, perfect score, 10. Spain, 10. Latam, 9. Benelux, 8.5. So I would agree with many of those scores. I don't agree with Japan or Spain that Starfield is a perfect game. It's not a 10 out of 10, but IGN USA, 7 out of 10. Let's take a look into this one. If you scroll about halfway down through this IGN article, the header here reads, "In Starfield, you can't go anywhere without fast traveling." And here's what they say. A mission might send you to the other side of a vast star map, but the actual travel time between systems is always the same, and the poorly explained fuel system, which is actually just your range, isn't much of a limitation. When I discovered that so much of spaceflight is effectively a series of non-interactive cutscenes, it largely shattered the illusion of exploring a vast universe. It's impossible not, and they emphasize not, to compare Starfield to the way you freely enter and exit planets' atmosphere in No Man's Sky. Okay, I'll touch on that in a moment. So it's a bit of a letdown every time you see a planet, and remember, it's just a picture of a planet you'll never be able to reach by flying toward it. It's something that happens a lot. Now, I find it interesting that they compare No Man's Sky with Starfield because at their core, you probably could not find two genres of game that are this dissimilar. Besides the fact that they share a setting of space, one is all about space travel, space exploration, planet exploration, versus another which is an RPG, which is all about dialogue choices, about story, about narrative that just happens to be set in space. And it sounds like they're holding that against Starfield, the fact that it doesn't have the ability to take all of No Man's Sky and bolt it on to this RPG game by Bethesda. This is an interesting topic. Maybe leave me some feedback about this one in the comment section below. In the interest of time, I'm going to skip all the way down to the bottom of this IGN article. There's a lot here. They have a lot of grievances against the game. Once again, if you want to read the whole thing, link in the video description. I'm down at the section that says verdict. It's never a great sign when someone recommends a game on the grounds that it gets good after more than a dozen hours, but that's very much the kind of game Starfield is, and I do recommend it. Interesting. There are a lot of forces working against it, and the combination of disjointed space travel, non-existent maps, aggravating inventory management, and a slow rollout of essential abilities very nearly did it in. It was the joys of piloting a custom spaceship into and out of all sorts of morally ambiguous situations, and a rich sci-fi universe that eventually pulled it out of a nosedive. I'm glad that I powered through the early hours because its interstellar mystery story pays off, and once the ball got rolling, combat on foot and in space gradually became good enough that its momentum carried me into New Game Plus after I'd finished the main story after around 60 hours. Like Skyrim and Fallout 4 before it, there's still an immense amount of quality role-playing quests and interesting NPCs out there waiting to be stumbled across, and the pull to seek it out is strong. Now, in the interest of time, I've skipped over huge portions of this article, but like I said earlier, I'll include a link to it in the video description. And as I read through IGN's review of Starfield, at least to me, it reads in a very contradictory manner. In one regard, they're so very happy with previous and less polished Bethesda titles such as Fallout 4, which, by the way, IGN scored a 9.5 out of 10. But then as they look at Starfield and they look at specific systems, which are, to me and to many people that I've spoken to, vastly improved within Starfield, they say they're actually negatives and detract from the way the game performs. Listen to this part. They say, without anything to fill the void left by Fallout's VATS, gunplay is left feeling largely unmemorable. And at least to everyone that I have spoken to, which is a very limited group, and at least the way that I perceive the game, because the way I played it and my 15,000 hours spent in the Battlefield franchise, which is a renowned FPS, the gunplay, at least to me, felt vastly improved within Starfield over Fallout, and I'm actually happy of the fact that they left out the VATS. Now it's down to headshots, it's about tactics, it's about taking cover. I simply don't know where they're coming from as they go out and compliment Fallout 4 and many of the less refined systems and mechanics contained in that game, and then they give it a 9.5, which I agree, yeah, it was a great game, but then they look at Starfield and all those systems have been improved upon, and they give it a 7. And it seems like I'm not the only one that's baffled by this 7 out of 10 score. Here's a tweet by Paul Tassi, of course, of Forbes magazine. A 7 out of 10 is genuinely wild to me, but whatever. And then, of course, we saw this exchange over on Twitter. This is from Jez Corden. I think the review is a bit cynical. It has flaws, but it depends on your perspective. The good stuff more than makes up for the bad. I don't know. These reviews are completely subjective, and of course, IGN is entitled to their opinions. I think this is a case of beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but one thing that kind of cemented my opinions about IGN, and I had to go and look this up, and my suspicions were confirmed. Here was their review of Battlefield 2042 back in late 2021. They gave it that same 7 out of 10 that they gave Starfield. Now, I was there for the launch of Battlefield 2042. It was an effing disaster. I'm not going to curse for fear of getting demonetized, but there is no way that Battlefield 2042 got a 7 out of 10 and Starfield got that same 7 out of 10. Now, I know these games are completely different genres, but Battlefield 2042 was a nightmare of a train wreck at launch and has only recently kind of returned to a Battlefield-esque type experience, but there is no way that Starfield gets the same 7 out of 10 that Battlefield 2042 got. Absolutely no way. And on that note, let's go ahead and wrap this one up for today. Leave me some feedback about any and all of this in the comment section below. Remember to hit subscribe and ring the notifications bell to receive my latest upload alerts. Likes, comments, shares are greatly appreciated. All my socials can be found in the video description below. Sometime last night, we passed 150,000 subscribers here on the channel. Thank you so much, and I really appreciate you sticking with me. And as always, a special thanks goes out to my patrons and to those of you firing off those awesome YouTube super chats. Until the next one, this is LtBuzzLitebeer signing off.